noticed that I didn't upload a September wrap-up video. But September's been a pretty hectic month for me, going back to school, which has put reading on kind of the back burner for me. So I only read 2 books in September. Yes, when I say I have a bad reading month, then I really mean I have a bad reading month. And so I decided to combine my September wrap-up and my RYBSAT read-a-thon wrap-up into one video. For those of you who do not know, RYBSAT is the Read Your Bookshelf-a-thon, which was created by Miranda from Books 101. It ran through the 1st to the 8th of October. And so I'm going to link down below Miranda's channel as well as my TBR video for that read-a-thon if you want to know more about what I was planning to read and what the RYBSAT is. Let's start with the books I read in September. First book that I read in September was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. First of all, I have to say that I really liked this cover that I picked up by the Penguin English Library. I've seen other covers or other versions of this book which were pretty ugly, to tell you the truth, so I'm really happy I got to pick up this version of the book. I really enjoyed the writing style. I really did it, but for me I couldn't just, read it 5 minutes between what I was doing, which is how I normally read my books. I really had to sit down and concentrate on the writing. I really did enjoy the writing, but it made it a very slow read for me, which is why it took me so long to finish it, especially when I didn't have time to read. As for the characters, I have to say that I really loved Jane Eyre as the protagonist. She's such a witty, smart, and very modern too character to be in a book that was written so long ago. As for the plot, I was quite surprised how there were times where the plot was very slow, but I still really enjoyed it because when the plot was slow, we got to see a little bit about how the lifestyle was back then, what people used to do, in their day-to-day lives, which was also something that's very interesting, and so I didn't mind the plot being slow at times. I really did enjoy the plot. I only had 3 faults with the plot. The first fault is that around the middle of the book, Jane Eyre has a fallout with her love interest, and then she acts in this very, it's the end of my world, I'm going to die, I need to kill myself, blah 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 way, which, it was so out of character for Jane Eyre. She was really smart, and she had this really smart way of looking at stuff, and a very modern way too of looking at stuff, and then her being like, I can't be with him, he broke my heart, I'm going to die, and she made it this huge emphasis, like there was like 50 pages throughout, 50, 60, nearly 70 pages where that's her main focus. And for me, it felt so out of character. Like, Jane Eyre, from half a book, I gotta know you so well, this seems so wrong for you to act like this. Like, get your shit together, which is what you would have done in like the first 70 pages. The second fault I had, the way that Jane Eyre just chanced upon her long lost cousins. Like, it's so unrealistic. Like, when you read that part of the book, there's the chance is 1 in a million. I get Charlotte Brontë, you got stuck. You took the plot to a certain way, and it got stuck. But you could have made how you wanted to twist the plot into a much more realistic way. There is no way that I'll be wandering around in the wilderness and then I'll just chance upon my long lost relatives. As well as at the end, when, she was kind of stuck about how to get 2 characters back together, make them meet one another. And then out of the blue, the supernatural wind carried their voices across the land. What? Like, this entire book didn't have any supernatural aspect to it. It was very realistic. So the fact that, to solve the plot and have the ending and have everything tie nicely together, you brought this supernatural element kind of, bothered me. Like, Charlotte Brontë, you could have been smarter than that. Jane Eyre is a very smart character. She could have been much more realistic. Like, if I would have heard a voice on the wind calling out my name. And even if though I recognize the voice, I won't go out and start searching the entire land for him or her. I'll probably say like, okay, I'm getting a bit crazy. I need to take more pills in the morning. Like, you know, it's like Jane Eyre was very smart, and then those ways of tying everything together kind of bothered me. But overall, I really enjoyed this, especially for a classic. I was really surprised, and I'm giving this a 4.75 out of 5 stars. Now, the next book that I read in September is Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. Now, Cruel Beauty is a retelling of Cupid and Psyche, or Eros and Psyche, depending if you're talking about the Greek or the Roman aspect of the story. And first of all, beautiful cover design, also bare cover. I really liked that. Now, as for the writing, I really enjoyed, and the plot as well, I really enjoyed how well the world was developed. Rosamund Hodge was able to bring so many elements that just made her story so rich in my eyes. This is definitely for mythology lovers who really enjoyed this book. This really did surprise me. And it surprised me so much because I loved everything to do with this book except all the characters. I did not like one character in Cruel Beauty. I could only a bit relate to the Beast, and then things happened to him throughout the story that, no. The main character, her sister, they were so annoying. I also really didn't enjoy the insta-love that there was between a couple of the characters in the book. There was a really bad case of insta-love, but I really did enjoy everything that had to do, like, I liked how the plot progressed a lot. Like, the twists and turns, I did not expect them coming. I liked the mythology aspect of it. I liked the world building that she did in here. I really did enjoy Cruel Beauty, except for the characters. And usually, you're saying, like, how can you enjoy the book without, liking the characters? I don't know, it just happened. Giving this a 3.75 out of 5 stars. Going to move on to the books I read in RYBSAT. These 2 books I know weren't on my TBR list, but I started reading them before the read-a-thon, and so I'm the kind of person that I don't want to move on and then put a book aside because I'll just forget everything, so I decided to keep reading it in the read-a-thon. And that's the Boxers and Saints duology by, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, Jin Luang Yang. I probably butchered the name, I'm sorry. And Boxers and Saints follows 2 perspectives, Little Bao, 4-girl, in the Boxer Rebellion in China. Now, for those of you who do not know, the Boxer Rebellion was a group of Chinese villagers who rebelled against the foreign influences in China. Now, I myself didn't know anything about the Boxer Rebellion. And so I advise everyone who hasn't studied the Boxer Rebellion and doesn't know much about it, do read up beforehand, before reading the duology of the graphic novels. I think that it will make you understand the story much better, and you'll be able to understand things much quicker. Though it's not a must, but I advise to read beforehand. Now, what I think makes this graphic novel duology so unique is the way that Jin Luan Yang was able to make us see both sides of the rebellion, connect and root for both sides of the rebellion. In the first book, we have Little Bao, and in the second book, we have 4-girl, and Little Bao becomes a boxer, hence Boxers, and 4-girl, the villager, turns into a Christian and so becomes a saint. And what I really enjoyed was also how the author was able to fuse in religion and belief influences into the book. One thing that I really liked that the author did was he matched his color palettes in the 2 graphic novels to the backstory of the character. I really enjoyed this duology and I recommend it for everyone, and I'm giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. So, the next book that I read in the RYBSAT read-a-thon was Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. Before I Go to Sleep is a mystery crime thriller, which is why I don't want to go in this wrap-up into too much detail about the plot. All you need to know is there's an amnesiac woman who's trying to figure out what happened to her and how she became an amnesiac. If you want to hear the plot in more detail, I will link down below my Halloween amusement book tag where I talk about the plot in more details. Book is also not suitable for younger readers. This book is a 4 out of 5 stars for me. It was chilling. It was scary. I enjoyed it. And the 4th book that I read in the RYBSAT read-a-thon was Tales of Ancient Egypt by Roger Lancel Green. This is a puffin classic. I'm giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy this, and I feel like this is an excellent place for people who have never heard about Egyptian mythology before and want to start reading about Egyptian mythology. But for me, because I already knew a large portion of the stories in this book, I didn't enjoy it as much, and I felt that the way that the stories were told, they were told in a very young way, like to appeal to much younger audiences. I would say that this is kind of like a middle grade kind of book, like middle graders will love this book. Also elementary school. That's the end of my wrap up. It read about 4 books in the RYBSAT read-a-thon. I was saying that I would have been pleased with 2. I'm extremely pleased that I was able to go through 4 books, even though 2 of them were graphic novels. I think I did pretty well for my first read-a-thon. Thank you for watching this video. I'll have another video up for you guys soon.